Peterson from Heartland Farm Partners is our marketing analyst this week. The latest crop conditions show 67% of both U.S. corn and soybeans in good to excellent condition. That's 19 points above the same time last year for corn and 22 points better in soybeans. Jeff joined us Wednesday afternoon to look at how markets moved this week after the recent acreage and stocks reports.
Ever since the report came out, everybody's sitting back in a little bit of disbelief on the acre numbers, and everybody's always questioning that. So I think the markets went into this holiday time frame here really pretty quiet and probably about what we'd expected after the numbers we ended up seeing.
Let's start in the stocks, and we'll both look at both corn and soybeans. In corn, the number is 2.76 billion bushels. That was actually on the low end of the guess, but if you look at that number, is that something that you feel safe with?
Yeah, you know it is. We feel comfortable with that number. We were thinking they might come in a little bit bigger, so I'm glad they actually came in smaller. But the most important thing in the way we take away that number and go forward is that we look at that and say, are we on course to hit USDA's carryout number of 769? And we do believe we are, as we take into account exports, ethanol, and also the feed and the residual.
So when that next quarterly number comes out, you don't expect there to be a huge shock to the market?
I don't. It's not going to be an easy task. The thing we have to remember is when that next stock number comes out, that's on September 1st. There's not going to be much corn ready come September 1st. So we're still going to have to get through 20 days in September on these old crop stocks.
In soybeans, 435 million bushels. That's such a small number, and it's a big drop from where it was a year ago. Do you think that's safe, or is that an area where demand might have to be rationed again?
Yeah, I think you're right, Jeff. Demand is going to have to be rationed. As we study the numbers and look at what USDA has forecasted, we do believe there does have to be some rationing. Probably some of the hardest rationing will be over on the crush side. That probably needs to be reduced about 30 million bushels, and we'll also need to see some of the exports washed out yet in order for us to come in at 125.
You do think that's an opportunity?
I do, yeah.
Ethanol really has put in some strong margins lately, but now the latest report shows that production dropped, but at the same time, the stocks are incredibly low. So what's happening in that sector really to kind of diagnose going forward?
Yeah, I think the ethanol, that's one of those areas we want to watch closely. The margins have pulled back, but what has kind of quietly happened, we've got crude oil back over 100 now. And so as a result of that, we could see the margins come back higher. Ethanol is one of the areas of demand that we may need to see USDA go ahead and increase yet again in future reports, because the demand has been very strong there. And as a result of those tight stocks, those margins are still looking good enough to keep them running at the levels they're at.
Today, as we talk, we're after the close on Wednesday, and today was really not a bad day. But if you didn't get anything sold, if you were trying to play the other side of this before those reports came out on Friday, and you still have some left in corn and beans, old crop, what's your recommendation?
Yeah, my recommendation is not to panic here. I would say right now, go ahead and look for a bounce, sell into that. You should get a chance to probably sell some new, old crop beans up somewhere closer, upper 15s to 16, because we do have some demand rationing. And on the old crop, I think we're going to find some pretty good support in that cash area, 7 or above. I just look for a spike higher to make a sale. Don't make a panic sale here.
Basis numbers are doing what right now?
Well, basis, after we've made the roll, we've kind of got a little confusion out there in the market. You've got the July in delivery.
Right.
You've got people rolling their basis. I think we'll see some higher basis numbers yet. That isn't reflected today, but we will see some higher ones yet on corn and beans.
If you're trying to find some money in the 2013 crop and haven't sold a very big percentage, what's your recommendation?
Yeah, my recommendation right now in the 2013 is on this next bounce higher, I would go ahead and be a seller. And I would be a seller on bushels that ultimately you'd be comfortable getting up to, maybe your crop insurance level, but be ready to defend that. Just in case we see a weather scare or something happen down the road, be ready to come back and put some calls against that, just in case something else happens.
Didn't hear too much talk this week, or excuse me, this year. Last year there was some talk about putting in some short season hybrid corns to try and get a jump on that market, but really there hasn't been an option for that because of the planting situation this year.
No, there hasn't been, but I think that same opportunity is still there, Jeff. One thing I would look for, think about some of your short season beans, think about some of your short season corn, think about where that's at and what market you could go to, because there'll be some very good basis levels for that when the time comes.
2014 numbers sort of took it on the chin last week. 2014, is that an opportunity you see you might be able to gain some money in?
I think at some point in here, I wouldn't want to be a seller right here today, but on the next bounce I would want to be. One of the things we really want to think about is that the market has been needing additional acres, probably for the last 3 years, and that's always given us some good opportunities after the first of the year. This year it's probably going to be a little different. we probably aren't quite going to need as many acres. So I'm not so convinced we'll see some of the pricing opportunities next year that we've seen this past year, by no means.
NASS is going to resurvey producers for their bean numbers in 14 states. Nebraska's not one of them. It's those states that had trouble getting those beans in the ground. Perhaps the important thing to remember is the numbers are a human number. So August 12th rolls around, what you might see.
Well, that's a great question. I mean, if anything, I mean, our feeling, even before thinking about resurveying, I do think we have to be prepared to see that soybean number go higher. But at the same time, I think sometime down the road, we will have to look for a lower corn number. I don't know if it's much lower, but it will be lower down the road.